In the name of God, who is most merciful and gracious, I am Zubair Khan and you are watching my vlog. A spiritual journey from Hinduism to Ahmadiyya Islam is the topic for today's program. For a few days, I was in Georgia and Azerbaijan. In Georgia, I met a wonderful young man, Mr. Ashwin Sumon. He is final year medical student in Georgia. Basically, he belongs to Kerala state of India. His Hindu parents migrated from India to UK and Mr. Ashwin was born and brought up in UK. During our lengthy conversations, Mr. Ashwin appeared to be a young man who since his childhood was in search of a living God and true religious belief. As in Ahmadiyya, there is a famous incident of a companion of promised Messiah alayhi salam. When someone asked this man, why did you accept Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam as Imam Mehdi, promised Messiah and a prophet of the God? This man replied that I was in search of my living God, and after accepting Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam, I found my living God. Similar feelings appeared when I talked to this young doctor. He was born in a Hindu family, but then he lost his faith in God. He tried to find his lost God in many religions but could only find in Ahmadiyya Islam. All viewers of this program are requested to concentrate specially on the narration of his state of mind when he raises his hands for prayers and asks the guidance from God, how God reveals his presence to him. This is really very inspiring, with full of emotions and a clear-cut sign of living guidance given by the God. Now just listen a selected part of the conversation. Now when we come to the conclusion of this conversation, so our viewers will be much more interested that how then you were, you can say, attracted or contacted, or how did you land in the Ahmadiyya group.
So
This, if you can tell us.
last year is when I found out the Jalsa and I started watching the videos, and it was this year at the start of Ramadan that I decided to practice Ramadan. I wanted to practice along with my fellow students who are practicing Muslims, and to see if I can forego this practice and see if there's anything I can experience, to see if I can feel something. And it was in the first week of Ramadan where I wanted to contact someone from Ahmadiyya specifically. And I contacted through Instagram and Facebook, and that's how I came to meet Jawad Sahab. And we arranged a day and a time to meet.
This Jawad Sahab, what you are saying, you found his details from the Instagram
And Facebook, yeah.
Facebook, and he is the president of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission
right,
here
yeah.
in Georgia. No?
Mm-hmm.
So this Jawad you are talking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So he invited me to come speak with him, and on the first day when I arrived, I came outside the gate.
It was Ramadan.
Ramazan.
I see.
And before I entered the gate to come into the compound, there was something that was almost compelling me to leave. There was something that was pulling me to go home.
Not to come inside.
Not to come inside.
Oh, I see.
I think perhaps shyness or nervousness,
Uh-huh.
or the fear of something is going to be different from here on. A big fear.
Uh-huh.
So when I came inside, he simply asked a question, which was just to talk about who I am, like I'm doing today with you, and to tell him my story, which took even more hours. And he left me with one homework to do, which was, if this sect and this religion, Islam Ahmadiyya, is for me, then to go home and pray for it. And he didn't tell me any specific way to pray. He just advised that the best time for prayer is in the early morning, when it's at most peace and quiet.
Right.
So since that day, I started doing this. And every other day I started coming back to this place and would meet him with question and answer sessions to bring forward all the questions and doubts I had about religion, about Islam, and in regards to Hinduism as well.
But acting upon his advice in the later stages of night, you had been praying regularly then?
Regularly in the night, not 5 times a day.
No. The what he advised you at the later part of the night are
Fajr prayer.
Fajr prayers. So you did it
Regularly.
Your own way.
My own way, which was putting the YouTube video of Fajr prayer and just simply following with them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I would mimic, follow, and just in my own mind meditate and keep God in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it was during this time that I would come here, speak to Jawad Sahab about my friends, about when I spoke to them about my consideration to the Ahmadiyya sect. They were telling me about their perspective in the Sunni sect, and we were discussing differences between the two. And I found more satisfaction when I found my answers through Jawad Sahab. And it's through Ahmadiyya that I found more peace and people that were more open-minded, people that had been more accepting and less discriminative, less segregative, people that really followed the slogan, which was love for all and hatred for none.
And do you remember that how many times you came to meet Mr. Jawad here?
No, I don't remember, but during Ramadan it was almost every other day, maybe 3-4 times a week during Ramadan.
I see.
After Ramadan, then slowly we began to discuss more during the Fridays as the exam season came closer.
Mm-hmm.
I became a bit more busy with my studies, and I was coming mostly for the Friday prayers. So Jummah sessions I would be coming for to hear his sermons and then question him upon the sessions. It was, so I won't skip, it was during Ramadan where we had talked so much and conversated so much about religion and God that he then started to give me books to read at home. And one of the first things I read was the essay by the Promised Messiah, which actually answered 5 of the most important questions, which I thought...
Which was that essay?
The Promised Messiah's essay, which he didn't give in, I think, Ludhiana. The essay which was given by one of his friends or students.
Was it the philosophy of teaching?
The philosophy of teachings of Islam. Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Philosophy of teaching.
Yeah, of Islam.
Yeah, okay.
So there were questions, for example, what's the purpose of life? What happens after death? These are the things that I was most interested in throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
And reading the essay, I didn't get complete understanding. I actually had to listen to the audio tape as well. So when hearing it, I can gain a bit more understanding. To this day, still the full understanding is not there, because the way he speaks is so poetic and so coded that it's like he's encouraging you to read it again and again and again.
He has advised even to his own followers. You can't understand my reading unless you have read them 3 times. So how many times did you read?
I've read it twice and listened to it a few times. I think maybe 3 or 4 times, but still I don't have the understanding.
Maybe try another time, third time then.
It's going to take maybe once a year.
Okay.
So there was other books he started to give me, for example, Our God. And this was more related to one of my other questions about, is God real and where is he? And so he gave me another book, which was The Living Signs of God.
Right.
And then to learn about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, so he gave me The Life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So I started to read these things to gain more of an understanding in Islam, as my understanding in Islam is not so deep, but my interest is there that I'm now starting to read whatever resources I can get my hands on.
So while studying all these books and meeting with him, did he ever ask you that accept Ahmadiyya now, join the Ahmadiyya? Did he tell you sometime?
He only asked me to search for that answer myself, to pray to God and see if this is a religion I can accept.
But he never forced you?
Never
or he
forced
never
me, no.
told?
No, because I had trust issues since I was a child. Whenever I visited these monasteries, gurdwaras or mosques in the past, they were always trying to preach to me and tell me that their religion is the greatest and why I should
But
follow
he
their
never
religion.
did like this.
He never did it once.
He just advising you read and make
Who
prayers.
am I? Read these books, come with him with my questions,
And
discuss my
and
questions,
do prayers to God, right?
and do prayers
Okay.
with him. And it was while being with him that I really found a lot of peace in life. See, for many years, or for the last 5-6 years especially, I felt quite heavily depressed because I thought I was abandoned or untouched by God. I thought God is not in my life at all. This made me to be quite upset and live in a very negligible way. I was
Then,
not happy.
okay, then how did you decide to join the Ahmadiyya?
So one day there was an iftar dinner.
It
And
was again month of Ramadan,
month of Ramadan, during the same month of Ramadan.
right?
And he took me upstairs to speak privately because now guests had started coming. And we were talking about something sensitive. I don't know exactly what the topic was. We were talking sensitive. Sorry. So he took me upstairs and we started to speak upstairs about his experiences with God, which I won't go into.
Right.
And it was at this point when I really found inspiration. And again, he mentioned the bayat. And he just asked me to take a look at the bayat and see if this is something I can adhere to, I can follow. And while I read it to myself in private, the main one which gave me trouble in accepting was the 8th condition of the bayat.
What was that?
The condition of putting God above your parents.
I see.
Yeah. For me, I've never witnessed any parent as great or as caring to their children as mine. For most of my life, although I didn't believe in God, they were my gods. I always thought of them to be invincible, never getting sick, nothing will ever happen to them. This was my belief.
Okay.
So even today, I still have some difficulty with this. There are some times where, I have to decide whether or not to obey them when it comes to religion as well. But I have this idea in my head that God gave me, these are my parents, and my parents are the people I should obey first. They are the ones who are caring and looking out for me more than anyone in this life that I've ever experienced. No one has shown care to me such as them or my grandmother. So reading number 8 is when I finally got stopped in my tracks in my journey to Ahmadiyya. I thought now is the point where I will not be able to accept. And I thought this is a religion in which it is removing my loyalty or my adherence to my parents, and it's telling me now to put God before them, to put my trust completely in God above my parents. And for my whole life I never really experienced much from God, and suddenly I'm now being questioned to see if I can put him above them, and I thought this is almost impossible. I was ready to leave and think I cannot accept this, but I tried to remain open-minded, and Jawad just simply told me to pray on this, that it's God who gave me my parents. If it wasn't for God, then I would not have such parents, and that I should be thankful. And when I die, I'll die alone, and the people I will return to is to God. So at the end, he bequeathed to me that the idea of God is the only one, that he created me, and my end will be with him as well, not parents. So it was then I went to the prayer room upstairs alone in private. Before then, I was just outside the prayer room and I was meditating. Not meditating in the stereotypical way you may think, meditating in the sense I was focusing on the question of number 8. I was just thinking, why God are you now giving me this difficulty of number 8? Like, this is going to be almost impossible. I was hoping to find faith, and I was hoping to find a communion in which I may belong, but now you're showing me something that is going to push me away, or something that's going to be very difficult for me to accept. And so I just began focusing my mind on this question, and I began focusing whether or not I can accept God being above my parents. And once I had this question fully in my mind and my chest, I went inside the prayer room and I just went right to the corner. because I didn't want anyone to see me from outside, because again, I was not fluent in my prayer. I hadn't fully learnt everything in prayer, for example, speaking it, or even prostration and the practice, getting up and everything. And this is when I got my answer, and this is when I finally found belief in God for the first time in my life. When I was stood there, just before I started to pray, I just asked, please give me an answer to this question, whether or not I can accept number 8, again, just focusing on this. And as soon as I raised my hands to my ears...
Can you do it? How did you raise?
Oh, just as I stood there, I just raised my hand up to my ears, and as I put my hand down across my stomach, that's when I heard a voice. Instantly, as soon as I raised my hand to my ears, I heard the voice. And it was not a voice in my head or in my ear. It was the voice of a woman, actually, next to me, facing me. It felt like that there was a woman stood right beside me, facing me. And as soon as I heard these words coming, I did not lose my focus. I didn't look right, even though I was so interested. There was something in me that just felt, carry on, like, don't stop.
Could you remember, or what was those words?
I knew at that moment it was the Fajr prayer that I was listening to on YouTube, but it was not the prayer on YouTube. For example, the YouTube prayer is in a male voice, and it was very slowly done. But I had not memorized the prayer at all. The only words that I remembered at that time was Inni wajatu wajia. After that, I knew nothing.
Can you say it once more?
Inni wajatu wajia. It was these words that I heard in my head, and it just carried on saying the whole prayer. Not one stop. And as soon as I heard the voice and I began my prayer, there was something that you would think that when you hear this, you would look to your right to see if something is there. No, it was like someone had put their hand on me and was like, just relax, just pray, and we will guide you in the prayer. That's what it felt like. So I heard this voice saying the whole prayer in Arabic, which I had no clue about. I had no idea. I just went with it because there was something also telling me, just pray. And when I prayed, I felt complete peace, full satisfaction. And it was then I fully got my answer, not only in number 8, but I fully felt the power. I now believed in God, because this is nothing I've ever experienced in life. When people used to tell me such things where they experienced God or something, I would try to explain it away. In this way, even today, if I try to explain what I felt away, I cannot deny what happened to me. I cannot, even if I try to debate with myself or someone about God, saying maybe God is not real, to see how they will react. I can't do that anymore, because now I have that understanding, or have the knowledge. It is too real. And it's from this point now where I became very fearful and very scared. Scared in the sense where now I was scared that there is something so powerful that we cannot witness, that we cannot see, that we cannot feel or hear, that he will only show his presence when he wants to, when you completely submit and someone is truly seeking him, maybe perhaps then he may show himself.
Can we say at this point, and are you convinced with this perception or concept that if I say that because of this experience of yours, you have been guided by God, or you have been driven divinely? Am I correct in saying like this?
I feel hard to accept when people say such things about me, like whether I'm chosen or something. I don't think so.
No, I am not saying chosen, but still the experience which you are telling, don't you think
Definitely
that
it was divine.
It is a divine guidance? No, you have nobody with you at that time. So in that
it cannot be explained. It's something that's above.
But it is a divine guidance. You agree to it?
I completely agree. It's something that even now it's hard to explain what exactly happened. Again, you hear the voice of prayer beside you. You feel a hand on you that's saying, just carry on your prayer. Don't stop. Don't look at me. I'm here to help you through it. And at the end of your prayer, when I'm sitting there on my knees, I just felt this presence leave. And it was like an overwhelming happiness. I felt so obligated, happy. I felt I can accept number 8. God is so great. There must be reasons. There must be answers why he's simply just asking to put him above my parents. But not in every necessary way. There, for example, God created parents to be obeyed and followed, so I should do this. And there are going to be questions and trials even now in my life where there's going to be the parents versus God and who I may shall follow and such. But in that moment in time, I fully submitted myself. I fully found answers. And it was after this prayer I went downstairs, and I had pride now in me that I felt part of something bigger. And now we had the communal prayer before iftar dinner, and Muhammad was leading the prayer, a recent convert as well. He was leading the prayer, and it was at the end of this prayer I found myself tearful. I now was being overwhelmed in emotion, whether or not it was because of what happened upstairs or now being in communal, that I was with everyone after having such an experience. It was so very powerful that now I began to cry a little bit, and I just kept there by myself for a little while and then came to eat with everyone. And from here started, I would say truly my journey started from here. For the past 31 years, I have been looking for answers and in search of something. It was more of an adventure. But now is a journey where I have my answers, but I now need to discover more, and I now need to understand what I am now involved in, what God requires of me, what now I must practice and do to fulfill what he commands.
At this point, I can say congratulations. We say in our Arabic, our language, Mubarak, that you have been guided towards right path, and now you believe in God. And naturally, this closeness to God, it's a journey, and it will continue. Thank you very much for this inspiring talk.
Thank you.
God may bless you.
Thank you.